Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. The soft-spoken but hilarious Maryland Whirlwind quietly blazed a trail for Native representation on the 90s hit TV show Northern Exposure. Actor Elaine Miles brought a complexity and humor audiences weren't accustomed to at the time. Since then, Miles has taken on various roles, often bringing both reverence and humor to the screen. We'll hear from her about her work over the years and that recent headline-making interaction with immigration officials, all right after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. Monday is the deadline for the public to weigh in on a potential rule change by the EPA that could impact which water bodies may be protected from pollution. As KJZZ's Gabriel Pietrazio reports, tribes are among those asking for a 30-day extension to comment.
WOTUS, or the Waters of the United States, guides which resources fall under the Federal Clean Water Act. But as written, the EPA would narrow the law's enforcement with estimates suggesting that 80% of the nation's wetlands could be at risk.
I think it's a big picture concern for everyone, really. Most tribes who want clean water or the ability to make sure that water is usable are probably going to write in opposition to kind of what the rule stands for.
Daniel Cordalis is Diné and runs the nonprofit Tribal Water Institute. While tribes can regulate waters on their reservations, they lack jurisdiction elsewhere.
Tribes can't look to the EPA anymore. I mean, arguably, the federal governments have to protect these tribal resources, but who's going to do that?
Some states are stepping up, like Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona.
That we're coordinating with our neighbors, tribes or states or a country on our southern border to make sure that we each know what each other is doing.
Trevor Bagori is the Water Quality Division Director at the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality.
Hopefully, this new rule will add some clarity as long as they are able to provide scientific tools to help us determine what's regulated and what's not.
For National Native News, I'm Gabriel Pietrazio.
Attendance at a school near the Pine Ridge and Rosebud reservations has nearly doubled in the past 3 years. School leaders say they're engaging one-on-one with students and families. They're also implementing Lakota language and culture. South Dakota Searchlight's Megan O'Brien has more.
It'd be like a herd of horses coming in. There you are. Where you been?
This is a typical morning at Norris Elementary, where most of the students are Native American. Principal Brian Brown greets students and staff at the cafeteria tables as breakfast is served. Brown also asks teachers who's missing. It's a way of getting ahead of the problem, he says. When students aren't at school, he makes phone calls and home visits. Just 3 years ago, barely half the students came to school regularly. Now, the school's attendance rate is above 90%. That's higher than the state average. It's a source of pride for Brown, who took over as principal in 2022.
I was very happy. I was very pleased, but more proud of the kids and the parents for their support and believing in Norris.
The leader of South Dakota's education department sees the success at Norris. The leadership and cultural engagement are important parts of that, Joseph Graves says.
And so now we want to see what kind of results this produces. We have the attendance, we have the drops in chronic absenteeism. Now we want to see what's going to happen with those proficiency rates and the graduation rates.
The school is on a gravel road about a half hour from other schools in the White River School District. Its isolation makes it difficult to hire and recruit teachers. In a small community, it takes everyone to keep students involved, Brown says. Some teachers have multiple grade levels in one classroom. The school's head custodian and office administrator are also bus drivers, and Brown steps in at lunchtime to help serve food. He also finds ways to make Lakota culture and language an important part of every student's day. Students sing every morning. Brown teaches Lakota studies to each grade once a week and started the school's first drum group, the Black Pipe Singers. For National Native News, I'm Megan O'Brien.
And I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Tribal Development Partners, helping tribes build toward their goals through 105L leasing and essential facility development, empowering sovereignty, strengthening community. More at tribaldevpartners.com, proud supporters of this show. Skugtash. For more than 40 years, Ramona Farms has revived ancient traditional foods, tepary beans, pinoli, polentas, and more, all from store.ramonafarms.com. Ramona Farms supports this show. Tom Yang.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Known for her film and television supporting roles, Elaine Miles has a knack for understated yet memorable roles in her many film and television appearances. The Cayuse and Nez Perce actor just portrayed a character on the wildly popular HBO show The Last of Us. She shared the screen with the late actor Graham Greene as a calm, humorous survivor living in a post-apocalyptic world. Her first break on the national scene came almost by accident. She was cast as the scene-stealing Marilyn Whirlwind in the 1990s comedy TV show Northern Exposure. Miles recently made headlines when she opened up about her encounter with ICE agents who rejected her tribal ID as valid. Elaine Miles joins us as this month's Native in the Spotlight. Listeners, you can contribute to this show with a comment or a question. Just call us at 1-800-996-2848. Once again, that number, 1-800-996-2848. And we have the phone lines open now. Joining us from Seattle, Washington is Elaine Miles. She is an actress and a member of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, and she is an original TV Native auntie. Elaine, good morning and welcome to Native America Calling.
Good morning. I like that intro.
Hey, you are way back. I remember I've been a fan of yours since Northern Exposure first came out in 1991. So, Elaine, we've got so much to talk about today, and I can't wait to get into the conversation. But first, I want to learn more about your recent encounter with Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, ICE agents. It made the headlines, and you were questioned while you were at a bus stop in Seattle. What happened exactly?
Oh, actually, I was walking. I was walking down the street, and they stopped me right by the bus stop. And it was crazy because I didn't really know what to think at the time, because you're just walking down the street, and then all of a sudden they come to a stop right on the street, and they all jump off their rigs, and the one guy just kind of yells at me, "We need to see your ID." And I was like, what did I do? Because I'm walking, and I used the crosswalk. I wasn't jaywalking, so why do you need to see my ID? And then I seen their vest had ice on it, and I go, why do you need to see my ID? And then they go, well, we need to see proof of your ID. Are you a citizen? I go, yes, I am. I'm enrolled with the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation in Eastern Oregon. And then he just kind of looked at me, and they kept saying, we need to see your ID. And I go, why? Because I'm just walking and I did nothing wrong. You have no cause. I go, do you have a warrant for me? And they were like, no, we don't. And we don't have to show you that. And I go, yes, you do. You have to have a reason to stop me. I know my rights. And then so we argued. And then finally I pulled out my tribal ID and showed it to him. And then the one guy, he's like, well, this looks fake. And another guy was like, yeah, anyone can make those. I go, no, that's from a federally recognized tribe. And you have to have an enrollment number to even have one of those. And I go, my enrollment number's on there. And I go, and you can call that 800 number. That's the tribal enrollment office. And the guy was like, anyone can have an 800 number. And I was like, no, they can't. I go, that's my tribe. Call it. And we stood there and argued. There was two girls in the bus stop, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. And then I didn't even think about bringing my phone out to record, because it happened so fast. And then arguing, I was just mad because they kept telling me it was a fake ID, and it's like, no, it's not. I go, I'm a enrolled member of the tribe. I go, both my parents and my grandparents, all my grandparents are enrolled too.
Right.
And then
right.
they were like, and then I looked at them and I go, you of all people are federal. You should know that.
Right.
And then they all just kind of looked at me, and then this white guy walked up and he goes, why are you stopping these ladies? And they go, well, we need to see their ID. And then I lied. And I told them that was my daughter and my niece.
And these were just random people at the bus stop, Hispanic people, right?
They were
Two women.
They were yeah. They were
Okay.
girls. They were young girls, and they were scared because that one girl grabbed my hand, and then I just kind of looked at her and I thought, okay. And then they go, we need to see their ID, and I go, why do you need to see their ID? You don't believe mine? That's my daughter and my niece. They have the same damn enrollment card too. And I go, and you're not believing it? Call it. And I kept telling them that to call it. And then when a white guy came up, they finally just kind of left me alone, quit talking, and they were talking amongst each other. And then the guy in the car, he whistled, and they all just kind of walked off and got in their cars. And I was like, the hell, what was that? And the guy goes, I think the guy was looking you up.
Mm-hmm. And that's how it ended. They just took off, and you were free to go, and everyone else was free to go.
Yeah. And then we went to Starbucks because I was like, I need to get a coffee. And so the girls were like, can we? And I go, come on. Because I go, if they come back and bother you, I go, just come with me. I just lied and said you were my daughter and my niece.
Just to protect them, though, right? Just to help them out.
Yeah. And then
Native auntie. There you go, Elaine.
Yeah,
It's in your blood.
I was thinking, and then after I did that, we were sitting there, and I go, did I have like the shocked look when I said that? And that girl goes, no, you just kept talking, and we were scared, and they were shaking, scared,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame them because I was scared, because I was like, what the hell, It's like, I can't believe this is really happening. And then I didn't really talk about it, right away. I waited until towards the end of the month because I was like, people will be saying crap about me and stuff. And then it happened to my niece or my son. And then my uncle, he ended up telling me after he heard about me, he said that he was on his way to Spokane and they stopped him in his car. And then he goes, you need to talk about this because they're stopping us. And then I was like, yeah, that's true. And I go, but I'm getting so much, because I got so much crap from people. They were like, she just wants attention. I go, no, this is not the way I want attention. It's like, I'd rather get attention for being in a movie or something. I go, this is not the way I want attention. I go, that was a scary moment.
Mm-hmm. Elaine, we need to point out that the Department of Homeland Security, they call your account, quote, categorically false. Now, do you feel compelled to follow up on your complaint about how you were treated?
I thought about it, but what's the point? Because they even lied and said that I was driving. And I go, I was not driving. I was walking. And then I seen where another one on somebody's post that they had said that I told them that they had guns drawn on me. I never said that. And I was like, these guys lie. And they're doing this to anybody and everybody that's brown or black or Asian.
Elaine, have you ever had an issue with your tribal ID, somebody not accepting it in some sort of official capacity?
No, not really, because I've used it at the airport. Because one time I left my ID at the checkpoint and I didn't realize it. And then I was like, oh my God, I left my ID. And then I needed it to get on the plane from where I was. And I was like, all I have is my tribal. And they go, oh, we could use your tribal ID. And I was like, oh, cool. So they used my tribal ID. And I've used it crossing the border. You could drive across the border, Canadian border. I've even used it going to Mexico, and they accepted it.
Mm-hmm. I know you're on social media. What are you hearing from other Native people about this experience? What are they telling you?
Some people have told me that even they have been stopped. It's like, it's crazy because ICE is just going bat crazy. It's like like I said, they don't care. They say they're picking up the worst of the worst, whatever. It's like, no. One lady, she was a white lady on my Instagram, and she told me that it was like 76% of the people in those detentions are U.S. citizens. And I was like, I believe it, because they're stopping anybody, and they're like breaking down doors in homes, and I was like, this is just pure racism. That's the way I see it. It's just racism. They're just targeting anybody of color. It doesn't matter what color you are. If you're not white, they're stopping you. And oh, yeah, they stop a few white people. It's like, yeah, wow, okay.
Elaine Miles, our Native in the Spotlight here on Native America Calling today. The phone lines are open for any listeners who would like to join the conversation. If you have a comment or a question for Elaine Miles, you can just call 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. And you can come on the air and you can talk with Elaine Miles. And we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a lot more about Elaine Miles' acting career and some of her other experiences and personal anecdotes as well. So stay with us. We've got a great conversation, and we're just getting started with Elaine Miles. Again, that number, 1-800-996-2848. A collection of stars visible this time of year is a signal for the traditional winter storytelling time. The cluster, also known by the Greek word Pleiades, is important to many tribes, including Navajos, Senecas, and Kiowas. We'll hear about the significance of this winter celestial mainstay on the next Native America Calling.
Repatriation is the return of ancestors and stolen culture. The Association on American Indian Affairs is hosting the 11th annual Repatriation Conference, Feeding the Fire, Advancing the Movement, in February 2026. This fully virtual conference will offer small group interactive workshops, strategies, networking, and more to advance domestic and international repatriation. More at Indian-Affairs.org. The association supports this show.
Thank you for listening to Native America Calling. We are speaking today with Native actress Elaine Miles about her career and her life away from the camera. You can join us with a comment or a question. Just call 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. And you can also comment on our website and social media pages like Facebook and Instagram. Elaine, I want to play an audio excerpt from Northern Exposure. Now, this is the 1993 episode Birds of a Feather. I'm sure you remember it. Your character, Marilyn Whirlwind, is the office manager for Dr. Joel Fleischman, who, of course, was played by Rob Morrow. And Marilyn is hiking with Joe's mother, who is quite the chatterbox. And Marilyn tells a traditional story about an eagle and a raven.
We almost moved to Peekskill when the kids were little for a yard, but Herb would have had to start all over again. Put out flyers. Takes a while to develop word of mouth.
This is it.
Here? Oh, isn't this gorgeous? It was worth every step of that walk.
This is my rock.
So, and you just come out here and, what, you just take in all this beauty?
Sit, think, and sometimes...
Well, you think we're really going to see some eagles today? Because nobody is going to believe me. What does that mean, anyway, to be an eagle spirit?
Well, number one...
Because it's funny when you said that about my being an eagle. I have always had a thing about eagles.
The eagle wasn't always the eagle.
Pardon?
The eagle, before he became the eagle, was Yucatangi, the talker.
Oh. This is a legend?
Yucatangi talked and talked. It talked so much, it heard only itself. Not the river, not the wind, not even the wolf.
Oh.
The raven came and said, "The wolf is hungry. If you stop talking, you'll hear him. The wind, too. And when you hear the wind, you'll fly."
So he stopped talking?
Mm-hmm. And became its nature, the eagle. The eagle soared, and its flight said all it needed to say.
That is an audio excerpt from a 1993 episode of Northern Exposure. And Elaine, that is just classic Marilyn. And I want to ask you more about that role, because you didn't seek out specifically to be Marilyn Whirlwind, and you've talked about how you were picked for that role. It's such a good story, though. Can you tell it one more time?
Sure. I drove my mom to the audition, and we were actually on our way to a powwow, in Canada and British Columbia. And that year it was really hot too. And it was a May morning, and they said, be here at 9. So we were there at 9, and a bunch of Native women were there, and I looked and I was like, oh my God, we're gonna be here all day, and I was more focused on the powwow. And my mom was like, oh, she's like, it's not going to take long, so don't worry about it. We'll get there. I was like, yeah, okay. And then they kept calling in these women, and they'd go in, they'd come out, another one go in, and they called. Finally, we're about to call my mom, and my mom, I asked her for some money. They had a pop machine, and so I was like, put my quarter in there because it's an old machine. And I was like, I never seen one of those, And so I tried it, and they sure had pop in there, So I put my quarter in there. It didn't give me my pop, so I'm standing there like hitting it, and nothing. It wouldn't move, so I kicked it. And then my mom was telling me in our language to knock it off. Then I looked at her and go, it won't give me my pop. And then finally the guy that was outside at the desk, he looked at me and he goes, oh, I have a key. So, he came over, he got the key, and then he was like, are you auditioning? And I was like, no, I'm not 35. And then he looked at me, and then the casting lady came out, and she kept looking at me every time she'd come. And then they both talked to each other, and then she came over and she asked me, she goes, would you audition for Marilyn? And I go, no, because I'm not 35. Because the original Marilyn was supposed to be 35 to 65 years old. That's why it was all these older women that were in there, and then my mom, they called my mom in, and then she just looked at me and she goes, just wait here patiently. And so I just sat down and had my pop, and I was sitting there, and then my hair fell out, and the guy, well, his name was John Vricky. He worked with Patty Callis and the casting person, and he goes, your hair's really long. I go, yeah, it's long, and I go, I just roll it up because it's too damn hot out. Then he just kind of smiled at me, and then my mom came out, and then Patty looked at me and she goes, would you, here's the line, would you come in and read with, because we've seen your mom and we'd like to see you. And then I just kind of looked at her and I thought, I'm not going to do this. And then my mom just kind of yelled at me in our language, just go do it. And so I went in, and then it was only like the one line that Marilyn had in that first episode is like, I'm here for the job. That's all I had to say. And then they looked at me and they go, if you had to move like out of state to do this, would you move out? And then I was like, yeah, I would. And they were like, oh, okay, well, thank you. And then I thought, well, is that all? And then I went out, and then my mom was like, well, that was quick, let's leave. So we left, and we were up at the powwow, and my dad kept calling. And back then we didn't have cell phones. So then we kept getting back to the room every night, and then she goes, I don't know what Dad wants. Let's call him and see what's going on. So we finally called him Saturday night. And then my dad, he told my mom, he goes, you guys have to come home because they want you for a call back in Bellevue, whatever that is. He goes, both of you have to be there on Monday morning. And she goes, oh, we were going to go to this other powwow in Alberta. And then they were like, no. Dad said, no, you got to come home. And so we ended up coming back to Seattle, and we got up Monday morning and went up to Bellevue to the studio. And then there was 4 of us, 2 other women, my mom and myself, and they called in those other ladies, and then they called in my mom, and then my mom came out and she goes, that was quick. And then I go, oh, that's good. And she goes, they asked some crazy questions, and they looked at me and they go, can you come in? And I was like, oh, okay. And so my mom just looked at me. I walk in, and then I did my line, and they just kind of smiled at me and they go, so if we take this to Los Angeles, would you go? And I go, would my mom and dad have to go? And they're like, no. And I go, okay, I'll do it. And then they just kind of smiled at me. And then I went out, they said, thank you, and, they asked other questions, and then I went outside and sat at the table with the other ladies and my mom. And then Patty came out and she's like, okay, thank you all for coming. And then my mom was like, yeah, it's okay if we don't get it. We could be extras, whatever that is. And I go, yeah, okay. And so we're sitting there, and she told those other 2 ladies, thank you for coming. And if we need extras, we'll give you a call. Or if there's another part that we think you can do, thank you. And so they got up and left. And then my mom looked we both looked at each other, and then they looked at my mom and told her, you're going to play Marilyn's mother. We like the work between the 2 of you. And then I looked at my mom, and then my mom looked at me, and then they smiled and they go, and you got the part of Marilyn. And I go, what? And they go, yeah, you got the part. And then I looked at my mom, I go, I got the part. And she goes, well, I get to play your mom. And then we just thought it was kind of funny,
And then they rewrote the character for a younger actor like yourself.
Yes, they did. They did. And then I auditioned, on Friday with all the hundreds of Native women, and then called back on Monday with 2 other ladies and my mom and myself. And then Wednesday I went to work, because Monday I went to wardrobe. They measured me and stuff, and then Wednesday I ended up going to Roslyn and working. It happened that quick.
Roslyn, Washington, crazy. Where a lot of the filming took place, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I just love that story, Elaine, so much. Now, of course, the character of Marilyn, you had this soft-spoken wisdom, and there were a lot of traditional elements. And that excerpt we just heard, that was based on a traditional Tlingit story. But I saw in another interview you did where you talked about originally Marilyn's character didn't feature as many Alaska Native cultural elements, and there was some pushback from the audience.
Yes, yes, because they when that first season, like they had me do the talent show, and they go, "We want you to powwow dance," and then I looked at them and I thought, "Oh, okay," and I go, "Are we supposed to be in Alaska?" And they go, "Yes," and then I was like, "Oh, okay," and then I just kind of looked at everybody, and Barry Corbin, he played Maurice, excuse me, and then he said that he goes, "Elaine, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, let them know." And I go, "Well, if we're supposed to be in Alaska, they don't powwow like we do. They have, each tribe has a different style of powwows, ours is different." And then Barry goes, "Well, tell them." And I go, "I don't want to," because I was afraid to say anything,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm brand new at this.
Right.
Yeah, I did a few episodes before that, and I was like, I don't want to like ruin it for myself. And then Barry goes, "I'll go with you." So Barry went with me to the producers, and I told him, um, they don't powwow in Alaska. If I'm from like Alaska on the show, they do different things, and they go, "It's a TV show. It's not real." And then they go, we could do it, we'll pull it off. And then I just kind of looked at them and thought, okay, so I did the powwow scene. And it was all my own, my own outfit and stuff. And we had a drum from Seattle here that came in, and we did our little, our powwow. And after that, I got so many hate mail from Alaskan natives because they were like, "We don't do that." And
Uh-huh.
then I was like, "Well, yeah, see." And then so I felt bad, because I tried to tell them, that we all have different ways, we're not all the same. And finally, I just thought, okay. And then my mom told me, she goes, "You're working with these people, and if you want them to listen to you, you need to learn how to speak up." And then I go, "But I don't want to lose my job." And she goes, "Well, it's better to be accurate." Because she goes, "Look at what these people are saying." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." And she goes, "Go up there and you tell them, you're not comfortable doing this." So I finally just gave them some of the letters, and I told them, I wasn't really comfortable doing that because we all have different style and different culture, So, um, they listened, but it took them time to do that, because some of the
Uh-huh.
stuff was, crazy, but
But
it's a
from that
TV
point
show.
on, yeah. And then Marilyn did become more dialed into Alaska Native culture, though, from that point on, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And then we even had I forget what language we were speaking, but anyway, we had a language person from up there also, so that was cool because I told him, if you're portraying, I'm portraying an Alaskan Native, I need to get the accurate pronunciation, because
Mm-hmm.
I know with my mom and them, if we say something wrong, they let us know, and they were like, "Okay." And then I go, "So if we're going to do this, this is what you're going to have to do." And so they ended up hiring a language person, and some of the words, they're real guttural up there. It's like it was hard for me to do that, but I did it, So but
Elaine, what?
it was a trip,
I bet, yeah. Now, from that point on, I mean, you were on the show for all 6 seasons, and I think you were on every single
Yes.
episode. Did you have other situations where you would go to the producers and say, "Look, you need to change something. This is not culturally or historically accurate"? And if so, were they receptive?
Yes. Yes. They were, and we actually had someone that was what do you call it, like a cultural advisor or whatever. But sometimes he didn't really speak up either. And so I would, and then other people that came on that felt like they weren't doing things accurately, then they would speak up too, and sometimes I think the producers were, kind of getting upset with us, but I was like, you know what? You have to be accurate because you're not the one that gets a hate mail. We are.
What about
So.
And since then, since Northern Exposure, Elaine, you've done so many roles and so many different productions. Has it changed now in terms of when you're working with non-native producers or non-native productions and projects? Are they more receptive to listening to the actors who?
Yes, they
Yeah.
are. They are a lot more, especially for like native roles. They are. I did a movie last year called Sky Valley, and it'll be out this fall of this year. And but they were, we shot it down in New Mexico, and we were speaking Apache, so I had to learn some Apache words because they had it down, but it was a Navajo word. And
You've learned a lot of language. We had to learn how to speak a
yeah.
lot of languages. We're going to have to take another break, and later we're going to come back. We'll talk
Okay.
more about
Okay.
some of your other projects and some of the other interests, when you're not working
Okay.
on films and television shows. And we got the phone lines open for any listeners who would like to speak with Elaine Miles. What are you guys waiting for? Give us a call. We want to hear from some listeners who love the show.
Yeah, come call me.
Support from Clarkson Potter, publisher of Turtle Island, Foods and Traditions of the Indigenous Peoples of North America by Native American chef Sean Sherman. With ancestral and modern recipes, this cookbook showcases diverse foodways of the continent's regions.
Kaufman & Associates is a Native-owned and led consulting firm supporting Native communities with culturally grounded solutions to shape Indigenous futures. More at kaufmaninc.com, KAUFFMANINC.com.
You are listening to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce, and we'll continue our conversation now with Native actress Elaine Miles about her career. And there's still plenty of time for any listeners. If you'd like to join us with a comment or a question for Elaine, just call 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. And Elaine, I want to ask you about the late actor Graham Greene, who passed away last year. He was also on Northern Exposure, and then later you reunited in 2023 for it's a zombie show. It's called The Last of Us on HBO. Did he give you any insights on Northern Exposure and even afterwards throughout your career?
Yes, he did. He was like, he was very, very professional. He always wanted everyone to be prepared, when we showed up for work, to be on time, because that was his big thing. If you held it up, he would he would get mad. I mean, I don't blame him, because it's a waste of our time too, when someone doesn't show up on time, and then or if someone comes unprepared. And he always told me, like, we sat and had lunch, and because I seen him in Thunderheart and stuff, and Powwow Highway, and so I was excited that I was able to work with him. And Clear Cut's one of my favorite movies of his, and he sat with me, and he goes, I don't mean to come off mean or anything, but he goes, it's like they're paying us to do this. We should know our lines. He goes, I'm not talking about you, because he goes, we're doing our stuff, but he goes, when you come in late, he goes, you don't want to be that way. He goes, yeah, they stereotype us natives like that. They come on their Indian time. He goes, if your call time's at 5, you be there at 4:45 or 4:30. And then I looked at him and I go, oh my God, you sound like my dad. My dad does that, because my dad was military. So he was like always, you have to be on time. You have to be early, and so when Graham told me that, I thought, okay, this is coming from someone that, he's done a lot of things in this business. And I was like, okay. And then he goes, and always know your lines, be prepared, know your cues, he goes, you're working with someone else. He goes, watch what they do when your line comes in. And that way you see, oh, he's doing that. This is where I speak. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I started doing that. And then he made me laugh because when we were on The Last of Us, we met with the writers and the director, and they told us they wanted us because they're another one. They found me on Facebook, and because they were looking for me, and but the guy that wrote, one of the writers, I forget his name, we met during the video, when the video first came out. And then he told both Graham and I, he goes, we wanted you two because you two are the most recognizable Native actor and actress in this business among other people, in the world. He goes, we travel, they talk about you because you were on Northern Exposure, was an international show. They talk about you because you've been in this business for so many years and they've seen you in so many roles. And then Graham just kind of smiled, and they told both of us, that you guys are both, A-listers among the Native people. And I just kind of looked at him because I don't think of myself like that. It's a job to me. And then Graham told me, he goes, I've always liked that about you because he goes, you never let this go to your head. And then I looked at him and I go, well, I have my family. And I go, and that was something you told me back in Northern Exposure, is like, don't let this go to your head. You're not any better than the next. You're getting paid to do this just like anybody else's job, and you're bringing somebody's creation to life. And then I looked at him, and then he goes, you remember that? And I go, yes, I do remember that. And he goes, I watched her grow from a shy young girl to now. He goes, you've done a lot. And he goes, I watch some of the things that you've done. And he goes, you've grown and you've shown, the people what you're capable of doing. And then I was like, thank you, because that was a compliment coming from Graham.
Yeah, big time. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Elaine, I know when we were talking a little bit before the show, you had told me that you loved the character of Marilyn, but you felt a little bit constricted at times, like she was just a very specific type of character and you wanted to branch out and play different types of roles. And you did that when you were in Smoke Signals in 1998, because in that movie you had this sassy character that had a lot of attitude. It was the first feature-length film to be written, directed, and produced all by Native people. What was that experience like on set?
That was fun. That was a really fun movie to do because, like you said, it was different than Maryland. Because after I did Northern Exposure, everybody, they'd want me to do stuff. They were like, "Can you be like Marilyn?" And I just kind of look at them and think, she was auctioned off. Well, she was, all her wardrobe, her boots and everything, so I go, she was auctioned off. This is me, Elaine, and I go, I'll work on something that's close to her, but I can't be her because she no longer exists. And then they would tell me, well, we kind of like that character. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I did it. But when I read for Smoke Signals, Sherman asked me to read, and he got a hold of my agent then, and she told me, she goes, "You can read for this, Elaine, but I don't think it's really going to go anywhere, because a lot of these like modified low budget movies don't really make it." And then after I read it, we had a reading, and then Sherman and they liked it. And so Sherman and the producers called me at home, and they're like, "Would you like to be Loosey Goosey?" And I was like, "Oh, that would be fun, because she gets to drive a car backward." And then Sherman just laughed, and he goes, "Because when you were reading that," he goes, I could really vision you driving that car." And I go, "I can drive backwards." I go, I've gotten my dad's truck stuck in reverse, and that, when you're learning to drive a stick shift, it was hard, because we didn't have a automatic transmission. We had, the stick shift, so I had to learn, and I got it stuck in reverse. So I've driven backwards, And so Sherman goes, "Okay," but they had a stunt man that did that, and he was too big because he was like over 6 foot, and the hat didn't fit him. He sat up way too high, and even when they took the seat out, he was too high. And they were like, "Okay, Elaine, can you come in early tomorrow?" And I go, "How early?" "I have to go in at 5 a.m. And I was like, "Yeah, I could do that, I guess." And he goes, "'Cause you're going to have to drive." And I was like, "You mean really drive it?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I go, "Oh, okay." Because I thought, yeah, I could do it. But, those ditches over there in Coeur d'Alene, on the Coeur d'Alene res, they're deep, really deep. I mean, if we went in the ditch there, you wouldn't even be able to see us,
Oh, jeez.
Michelle St. John was scared. She was like, "Do we have insurance?" And she was like, "There's no seatbelts." And then I looked at her and I go, "Michelle, stop it. I'm not that bad of a driver." And then she was like, "But Elaine, look at and I go, "Don't show me the ditches, and I'm not going to do this, And then we were kind of joking around and driving. He goes, "Just get used to driving." And here that whole time they were filming. And then finally, he goes, "Okay, we're going to shoot it." And then we messed up because we started laughing. I was driving all over the road. And then he goes, "Come on now, let's do this again. Make dust, Elaine." I was like, "Make dust." And he goes, "Because the one we were just kind of playing around and just driving, I made dust." And so after like the third time I drove, and I was like, we had to cut the sound because Michelle was like, "She was making dust."
Oh.
And I was like, "Michelle, you just messed it up." And then she started laughing, but she was like, "Girlfriend's driving." She's like, "You were going 50. And I go, "I was just trying to make that."
And it came
And
out so
Sherman
good
just,
on screen. It all looked so good. Who
yeah. And then
knew?
Sherman just laughed. He's like, "We got it, Elaine." I was like, "Yay." And then we were all bummed because this one where we're driving Thomas and Victor to the bus, to the bus where the bus stops. And I
Thomas and
used my
Victor.
blinker. I stopped and I used my blinker, because it's just habit, because it's instilled in you to use your blinker, So I used my blinker, and Sherman was so mad because he was like, "We couldn't use that." And he goes, "And that was such a good shot because you used the blinker." And I go, "Well, it was just habit, And then he goes, "But we had the wrong wardrobe on."
Oh,
And we
jeez.
tried to tell him, this isn't the right wardrobe. And it's like, no, it's a different day. And here it was the wrong wardrobe. So the best part of it where I actually stopped, use my blinker and turn. And that was the best. And I was like, man, that would have been good to have in there, you know?
But it was still an awesome movie. Awesome movie.
Yeah.
Elaine, what are you most proud of? All your roles, television, movies, and even your personal life. I know your son was a Marine, and that's a role you take very seriously too, as the parent of a service member.
Yes, I do. That I'm very proud of. I'm a war mom. I'm a war mother now. And I am very proud of my son. I was a single mom, so having him join the Marines, and then now he's been married 10 years, has a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old, you know, and um, he's doing really good for himself and is a good dad. So I'm very proud, you know, of my son. You ask about what I'm proud of doing. I think the most thing I'm proud of doing is smoke signals. I know, because like my agent was kind of against it, you know, because she goes, it's not going to go anywhere. It's, you know, it's a modified low budget. But then Sherman had a sign that where if it did get bought, we get paid more, you know, so that was good because it ended up making, you know, the mainstream theaters. And like I said, it's the first written, directed, produced with the main characters Native, and I wanted to be a part of that, you know, because I worked in Canada, and Canada is so different than the US, because up there they have more natives like on news, writers, directors, you know, that do movies up there. And they have their own TV station, you know. And that's what I was like, why can't we have that down here? You know, it's like we struggle to, back then it was a struggle to even get your foot in the door if you're a native, you know. And it's changed though now, you know, because we've had like reservation dogs, Rutherford, what was it, Rutherford Falls, and like Northern Exposure, you know, and
Elaine,
it's a
were
lot
you
different now.
right? Yeah. Were you a fan of Sherman Alexi's writing before Smoke Signals? Before you worked with him on a film?
You know, I never knew who he was because I'm not a bookworm, you know. I'm a powwow girl. I was powwow and rodeo, you know, so I always went to powwows. I mean, I have powwow family, and they all missed me, you know, because they were like, we don't see you no more and nothing, you know, what happened? And then when they see me on TV, they were like, that's why you're not coming to the powwows, you know, because my mom and my sister and I and my brother, we traveled all over to go to powwows. And then when I got on Northern Exposure, we just stopped, you know.
Right. Elaine, I'm sorry we're out of time. We're going to have to wrap up this conversation, but this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's much appreciated.
All right. Well, you keep making us proud, okay?
Okay, I'll try.
All right. And with that, we're going to have to wrap up with Elaine Miles. Wonderful conversation. And listeners, please join us again tomorrow. We'll look at the spiritual significance of a star cluster that is important to many Native cultures. Until then, I'm Sean Spruce. You've been listening to the one, the only Native America Calling.
Who protects Indian country? Ameren does. As the only 100% tribally owned insurance carrier, Ameren helps strengthen tribal communities by providing reliable insurance coverage and keeping dollars in Indian country. From property and liability to commercial auto and tribal workers' compensation, Ameren is here to protect what matters. Celebrating 40 years of serving Indian country. Learn more at Ameren.com. That's AMERIND.com. Repatriation is the return of ancestors and stolen culture. The Association on American Indian Affairs is hosting the 11th annual Repatriation Conference, Feeding the Fire, Advancing the Movement, in February 2026. This fully virtual conference will offer small group interactive workshops, strategies, networking, and more to advance domestic and international repatriation. More at Indian-Affairs.org. The association supports this show.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Quantic Broadcast Corporation, a Native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.